In 9600 BCE, a group of people with no farms, no pottery, no metal tools, and no written language built a temple. Not a hut, not a campsite. A temple, each with stone pillars standing 16 feet tall, weighing as much as a school bus. This was built 6,000 years before Stonehenge, 7,000 years before the pyramids of Giza. This is Göbekli Tepe. And it doesn't just predate history, it rewrites the order everything was supposed to happen in. SFX, wind across open hilltop, distant birds, low ambient drone. Göbekli Tepe seats on a hilltop in what is now southeastern Turkey. Construction began around 9600 BCE, over 11,000 years ago. For most of the 20th century, archaeologists believed they knew exactly how civilization began. First, farming. Then, surplus food. Then, villages. Then, finally, temples and religion. Göbekli Tepe broke that story completely. The people who built it were hunter-gatherers. No agriculture, no permanent villages, no surplus food to spare. SFX, light wind, distant excavation tools tapping stone. The story of Göbekli Tepe's discovery begins with a mistake. The dismissal. In the 1960s, American and Turkish researchers surveyed this hill. They saw broken stone slabs and assumed it was nothing more than a medieval cemetery. They walked away. SFX, faint vintage film reel hum. The return. In 1994, German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt arrived at the same hill. He looked at the same broken stones and saw something completely different. Within days of digging, massive carved pillars began to emerge from the earth. SFX, soft brushing sound, breathing, anticipation. The engineering. The pillars were T-shaped, some over 16 feet tall, weighing up to 50 tons. They were quarried from bedrock half a kilometer away and dragged uphill by people with no wheels, no draft animals, no metal tools. By the time excavation slowed, archaeologists had identified 20 separate circular enclosures, and they estimate they have uncovered only 5% of the entire site. Let that number land for a moment. The site covers roughly 90,000 square meters. After 30 years of excavation, researchers have reached less than 1/10 of it. What remains buried could contain structures that make everything we have found look like the front porch. Here is the detail that should stop you cold. Every pillar is carved. Foxes, lions, scorpions, vultures, rendered with astonishing precision using nothing but stone tools. Researchers have cataloged 43 distinct animal species across the site. 43 species, carved by people who had no writing, no pottery, and no permanent address. FX, stone chisel tapping rhythmically, echo in open air. This was not crude work. This was the output of skilled specialists, artists who had clearly done this before. And the central question that has haunted archaeology for 30 years: why would hunter-gatherers, people with no permanent homes, no food surplus, no obligation to stay in one place, commit this much labor to a single hilltop? Klaus Schmidt's answer reversed everything. He believed people didn't gather here because they had already settled down. He believed they settled down because they gathered here. In his words, "First came the temple, then came the city." Göbekli Tepe stayed buried and forgotten for nearly 10,000 years. But here is what changed because we found it. Every textbook explanation of how civilization began has had to be rewritten. The old story said farming came first, and everything else followed. Gobekli Tepe suggests the opposite is possible. That shared belief and ritual may have been the spark that pulled scattered hunter-gatherers into permanent communities, and farming followed as a consequence, not a cause. Facts: ancient wind fading into modern excavation site ambience, distant voices, and the part that should genuinely unsettle you. 95% of this site is still buried. We have no idea what we haven't found yet. 3 things Göbekli Tepe teaches us that still apply today. 1. Shared belief can build before resources exist. These people had no surplus, no permanent infrastructure, no obvious reason to organize at this scale. They built anyway, because enough people believed it mattered. The biggest things humans build rarely wait for perfect conditions. They start because people choose to start. Think about every significant company, movement, or project you have ever heard of. Almost none of them started with enough resources. The Wright brothers had a bicycle shop, not an aerospace budget. Apple was started in a garage, not a campus. The people who built Göbekli Tepe had no farms, no metal, no wheels. They had a shared belief that this hill mattered, and that was enough to begin. Awesome. Perfect conditions are almost never what starts something. Belief is. 2. The order you assume things happen in might be backwards. For a century, the assumption was stability first, meaning later. Gobekli Tepe suggests meaning can come first, and stability follows because people organize around what matters to them. Before you assume you need the resources first, ask what you'd build if you already believed it was worth building. 3. Sometimes the most respectful ending is to bury something with your own hands. Nobody destroyed Gobekli Tepe. Its own builders chose to lay it to rest. Not every ending is a failure. Some things are built to matter for a season, and the people who built them know best when that season is over. Here is what I want to leave you with. Gobekli Tepe was discovered in '94. For 30 years, a small team of archaeologists has been carefully uncovering it. At the current pace of excavation, fully uncovering the site would take centuries. We may never see all of it in our lifetimes. A group of hunter-gatherers with no farms, no writing, no wheels, built a monument so advanced that archaeologists initially refused to believe the dates. Then those same people buried it with their own hands and walked away, leaving no explanation for 10,000 years. The story of Göbekli Tepe is not just prehistory. Yes, it is a reminder that the order we assume things happened in is often a story we told ourselves, because it was easier than admitting we don't know. Here is my question for you. If meaning can come before stability, before resources, before farms, before cities, what does that change about how you think progress actually works? Tell me in the comments. I will pin the most interesting answer. Subscribe prompt. Next episode, TBD, coming next Friday. Like plus share prompt.